Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have SCP-953. So, remember last week when we did an SCP that was very short and like super thought-provoking and tight?
Yes.
Well, we're going to cover a fairly long SCP entry today.
It is not thought-provoking and very loose.
We will see. So SCP-953 was created by DrClef on the SCP Wiki. You can check it out there, and I will also do a rundown right now. So SCP-953 is a kumiho, or a Korean fox spirit, and is not to be confused at all with a kitsune, which is a Japanese fox spirit. Because seriously, that's just supernaturally racist.
Yeah, I'm sure. Doesn't it pronounce kitsune?
Kitsune. It's probably just. I don't know.
I don't know well enough.
If I'm being honest, I was about to do like potato, but like I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
It might be
potato. I say potato. It's fine.
It might be kitsune since like kage is how you say Kage. So
I mean, at least in Naruto.
Yes, based on Naruto. Yeah. Damn it! You pierced through the veil by my shadow jutsu to my reference. Damn it! All right, tonight on Anime Rigamortis. Actually, this might go to Anime Rigamortis depending on what goes on in this. Continuing on with the rundown, though.
If we blow it right.
Yeah. So she is a red fox spirit with 9 tails. So already, like, Naruto's kind of just like sliding into view.
A little bit.
Who can shapeshift into various human forms and loves to eat livers and torture her victims, from which she gets the livers from. She was captured back before the Foundation was what it is today, in post-World War II Busan, South Korea. She has escaped multiple times and murdered many people during those periods, including 20 people at a furry convention in Pittsburgh. When she is in containment, she is to be locked up in a Type 4 containment cell, 4 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters, at the end of hallway 99 at Site 17. Direct human contact is prohibited. The containment chamber itself is to be lined with open cage dog kennels, preferably of the Korean Jindo or American Foxhound breed. This is due to her folkloric phobia of dogs. There is an interview from the sole survivor of the initial containment, which has since been digitized and archived. And it's basically just like the team going into and capturing her and like falling under her spell at a cabin, at her cabin, and then one of them getting like horribly mauled and ripped apart. And the sole survivor only found out about that and like fell upon this whole like the spell being like broken and stuff when he went to go take a piss outside and found his other team member being ripped apart after fornicating with the entity. So that's SCP-953 in a nutshell. Like I said, you can check it out at the wiki page or at the Foundation's website and read the full dossier and stuff like that. So we will move on to everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions at this point, because I actually have one this time for an SCP entry.
Nice.
So, from the interview, Redacted ran for it, crawled into the living room where we'd had dinner early that night, and tried to slam the door shut. Rice paper screen, not going to help, but I needed something between us. Okay, so I feel like the sentence here should have some clarification, because I think Redacted should just be I, since I think it's the agent talking, and based on like what happens in the scene. So like I ran for it, crawled into the living room where we'd had dinner earlier that night, and tried to slam the door shut. Rice paper screen, not going to help, but I needed something between us. that's how my brain was trying to make that work, because it seemed at first like redacted was like the entity or something like that. But then the guy starts talking about like that, like he needed he was the one that actually closed the door, despite the fact that it was paper. It was a rice paper screen. So I don't know why that redacted needed to be there.
I don't know. Unless it's referring to his buddy.
Maybe
But then it would have said Agent 2, because it says Agent 2 before.
Yeah. So that I just don't know why redacted was there. Like,
Yeah. Or there's
Yeah.
information in between that paragraph and the previous one that's been removed.
but and because there is content that's been removed, because it's like basically a digital transcript of like shaky like audio footage. Like basically, it's like my guess is like this is a transcript of like some like 8mm tape or something, or like audio like a cassette tape that like, and like garbled image, like garbled. There's some garbled guff as a result of its age. From like the magnetic tape and stuff. So like I'm assuming that they tried to transcribe it as best they could, and so there's chunks of it that were just removed because they were unretrievable.
So maybe it should be like redacted, and then like enter the next section down to click it underneath it. So it's just a redacted statement in between paragraphs to show that there's information taken out, like an entire paragraph or two.
Yeah, like maybe have redacted, and then next one is ran for it, crawled into the living room and stuff. Yeah. That seems to make more sense, because otherwise I don't know why that word is there.
But if that was intentional, the R on ran for it would have been capitalized. And same thing with the next one where it says redacted killed him.
Yeah. So then why? So it just seems like based on like the context of the scene that we explore in that 3 lines of words. It seems like he's the one running for the living room and closing the door and stuff like that to buy himself time. But it also kind of, at the beginning, it almost sounds like the creature's running and crawling into the living room. So there's like a weird like hiccup here or something, I think, that could easily be fixed if you just made the redacted I.
Because it says like redacted ran for it, did all this stuff, and tried to slam the door shut. Not going to help, but I just needed something between us. So
exactly.
He is redacted.
Yeah, it's almost like the person who's transcribing this is commenting, and then it suddenly switches to him, like the guy who's running in the scene.
Yeah.
But there's no like dialogue, like quotations or anything like that. It's just suddenly it's that guy talking from his perspective. But yeah, that clanky, like jarring, like behavior in this sentence could be easily fixed by just removing redacted. So,
what would the next redacted mean? It's redacted killed him and laid him out where that's people have been.
So yeah, that would, in that case, that would be the Fox Demon. But for some reason we're that's where the redacteds are kind of like breaking up the continuity a little bit, because we don't know who the fuck's talking. It's like it's worse than an It story.
I was gonna ask if she's referred to anything in this. Like she's referred to as this girl, she's referred to as she.
Yeah, because there's a like I think the agent's supposed to have almost like a reverence for her. So, and for some reason they never give her the name. Like, did they ever actually use Kumio except for like in her description?
I don't believe so.
You'd think that they would use that designation, since they're already kind of going off of like this early stage of the Foundation where like the folkloric entities stuff is like done up almost like gospel. And I also know like in
the first contact with her.
Yeah.
So unless she straight up said this is my name, they wouldn't know.
That's true. I mean, the thing is, they both had like they knew that she was like similar to this kind of creature, because that guy, the agent here, his grandmother told him horror stories about her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and also like they sat down and had dinner with her, so you figured they would have asked her what her name is.
Yeah, true. I mean, again, like that's at that point they were already under her like spell, so like her glamour, or what have you. So, but yeah, that's my grammar acquisitions. It's really just that. It was so small, but it was just like, why is this redacted here? It shouldn't be there, because it muddles up the scene so much. Because I'm having a gamer moment here where I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah. I'm normally the one who's an idiot. What the hell?
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, it is. It burns.
All right, so yeah, that's my grammar acquisitions. That redacted should be an I. I'll move on. by passing on the torch to Mikey.
Before you do that,
Oh.
it's also weird that those redacteds are spelt out redacted. Meanwhile, earlier on, it's just like black highlighted over. Like, what's the difference?
I
I
think
think I've asked this question before. I just don't remember what you told me.
Was the black bar? Here's the thing: is the black bars used only in the report, whereas the redacted here is done in the interview.
But there's black bars in the interview.
Damn it. Okay. In that case,
expunged.
Yeah, it basically like somebody doesn't know which one they want to use. Because like,
or is it maybe different rounds of editing that people have done?
You know what? That could also be it. Because like I know that these entries again, like they go through like multiple iterations based off people like adding and removing content and editing content. So yeah, it might just be like it might not even be that like the person who wrote this originally couldn't decide on whether they wanted to have black bars, redacted, or data expunged. It's just multiple people have their own preference for when they do redacteds.
Yeah, I'm sure the person who transcribed this in the first place literally wrote down everything 100% and then gave it to the superiors, and then he took a freaking black Sharpie and just went over some stuff. And then after the fact, they're like, okay, no, we need to cut this down more.
Well, because in real life, like that's how like classified reports and stuff like get redacted. Is they like that you usually handed hard copy paper. Thank you. Yeah, with like all the report like printed on it, and then you go in and like have like black bars for everything that's that can't be seen, right? So. Yeah, so it's. I think it's here just like probably just a preference thing of whoever was editing this report.
I guess.
Yeah.
In general, personally, I'd prefer all of the redacted stuff to just be blackbarred.
I kind of agree with
everywhere.
You.
It looks way cooler.
That's honestly it. Like it makes it look way more again because I've like grown up watching like UFO and conspiracy like unsolved mystery stuff where like the government like papers and stuff that they recover always have those black bars like to signify that something's been redacted. It's like it just looks cool. Like
plus, it
say
makes
what you
more
will
sense.
about evil. Yeah. Say what you will about evil government conspiracies and stuff. The government's got fucking style.
Sure, they do.
Between like the black suits and the fedoras and the black and the redacted black marker, like it's all just kind of stylish if you think about it.
I don't care what you say. Sharpies are badass. I have a Sharpie on my person at all times.
Sharpies are quite sharp. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm the info hazard this time.
How dare you? That's bad enough. You took my jerk.
All right. So, anyways, we should probably move on.
Probably.
So, Mikey, these days for you.
I have an it sentence.
Okay. We got one.
Its preferred killing method is a bare-handed strike to the abdomen, penetrating the abdominal cavity and removing the liver, which it will later consume. Finn.
Is that seriously the only it?
Yes.
Damn.
Well, that's good.
Damn.
Could just be fixed with switching it with she, though.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Just, I mean, it is also like a weird entity. Like maybe it doesn't have gender. It just projects itself as a she, but it might just be
that's true.
It's supernatural convolution.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Relationship complicated. Also, my liver's gone. All right. So I guess then, and that's all for your grammar position?
Yep.
It's in. Then gamer.
Don't worry. I'll pick up the slack. I don't have any.
All right. Hey man, SCPs. Say what you will about like certain SCPs. They get that grammar like they know how to edit.
Yeah, legit.
It's almost like they have like a massive team of people who are constantly reading and like evaluating the entries. All right, so I guess we'll move on to actual thoughts. So I'm going to start with this one here. Special containment procedures. SCP-953 is to be kept in a Type 4 containment cell, 4 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters, at the end of hallway 99 at Site 17. Whoa! In the triple digits, and not a redacted to be found during the over the site locations. Either someone slacking off, or we've got some high clearance. Or we just as readers are supposed to have high clearance while reading this.
Yeah.
Again, this is only in the triple digits of the series of the list of entries. But like again, some retrofitting maybe to like add some stuff to like improve the format maybe.
Yeah, because they're not shy with the redacteds in the transcript.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's really just my thing. It's just like, wow, we know we know where this thing, what facility this thing is in, and where. The only thing like they didn't give us is what country it's in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And then we get to the part that really irked me when I read this story. All right. So, subject displays polymorphic properties, however, allowing it to take the form of various other objects and beings, most commonly an attractive Korean female. So, footnote number 1. Unlike SCP-1540, SCP-953 appears to retain some control over its polymorphic capabilities. Now, that footnote is because of the word polymorphic in this sentence, in this paragraph here, is a link to another SCP entity. And I really don't see the reason to have a link to another SCP, especially when not directly referencing as a link. Like, I understand that the creatures share polymorphing as an ability, but it seems like an unnecessary spotlight to another entry, especially since another SCP entry, another SCP link is provided when the word polymorphic is used again. Like basically, the first polymorphic link goes to SCP-9 or SCP-1540, and the second use of polymorphic is used. What?
No.
What?
The first polymorphic goes to SCP-2408. The second polymorphic goes to 2750.
0. Yeah.
And the footnote, which is at the bottom, has a link to 1540.
Oh my god! So there's 3 SCP entities referenced in this without actually giving them a note in the like a proper like spotlight.
Mhm.
Okay, so my issue here is that like, all right, if you want to like add on like these as examples, give them proper like reason to have it be examples, because I didn't go into like those entries specifically. Like I didn't like do a thorough reading of those entries. The only thing I did like a quick kind of glance over. The most I was able to kind of tell was that they have like similar shape shifting ability. But unlike the one, 953 is capable of retaining control over its ability versus other ones. So I was just like kind of. It just seems unnecessary to me. It just seemed really like unnecessary to have these entries linked.
Yeah, well, like how far is it gonna go, right? Is there gonna be a fourth one where it like links you to Bulbapedia and there's the thing on Ditto there?
I was gonna say Ditto. Yeah, well, that's the worst. That's the biggest SCP of all. Is Ditto.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But also like I even like checked because this article SCP-953 does actually have at the bottom, similar to Cadaver Commander, a list of SCP entries and stories that that DrClef has written, and those entries aren't any of them. So it's not even like that they're showcasing their own stuff in these. Like they're not like linking creatures that they've created, and as far as I know, there is no real link between this entity and the other ones. I could be wrong. I didn't read through all of them thoroughly, so we might have to do another month of SCPIs.
Yeah,
done a lot already.
We'll pace ourselves.
Yeah. Personally, the footnote for me made more sense than the linking on polymorphic.
Yeah, that I can get that. Yeah.
Yes, but even still, knowing about 1540 does not help you dealing with 953.
Well, it does to a little bit because
1540 can't control its polymorphic capabilities, so I guess it just changes constantly. But this one has control. You know what it means, like without reading that.
Well, SCP-1540 changes basically every month. That's its polymorphic ability.
Is it basically just a werewolf?
No.
Oh, so it's not like you said with the month. It's like, is it just like within the moon phases?
No. It's just it literally changes every 29 to 30 days.
Okay.
So and it seems to have no control over it, where the SCP-953 appears to have some control over the polymorphic ability.
Yeah, it's basically the difference between a rampant mutation and a controlled innate ability of polymorph. Like it's the difference between a changeling and it may not be a werewolf, but it's basically the difference between a werewolf and a changeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of I'm on both sides kind of because like I agree with Mikey in that the footnote makes sense, but I also feel like we shouldn't be linking SCP entities that have like possible similar like abilities when it comes to polymorphing. Especially don't just make polymorphing the link. Like put in an addendum and give us a description as to what makes this polymorphing special. Like explain it in the entry. Don't send us to some other link for the sake of sending us to another link that has something possibly similar.
Well, that's where with the footnote, you at least know it's a footnote.
Yeah.
So if somebody already knows what SCP-1540 is, then they go, okay, well, it's not like that, so I can sort of know a little bit more what they're talking about. Whereas with the links to polymorphic, it's basically what's known as mystery meat.
Yeah, like you don't know, like it's like okay, I guess I got to read this entry now. That had very little about in context of the entity I'm reading. All right, go back to that and then you've already pulled the reader away from the focus of your entry.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a fine line to be playing with this, especially if you don't do it properly. Can I continue or?
Yep.
Okay. So on to my next one here. SCP-953 displays moderate-level psionic abilities, namely suggestion and telepathy. Although insufficient to fool an outside observer, an entranced subject can be convinced of a variety of false facts, including the nature of SCP-953, its own nature, and the nature of things around it. SCP-953 has used this in the past to, among other things, deceive police officers investigating reports of loud screams from a hotel room, convince a mother to roast and eat her own child, carry out acts of necrophilia upon Agent Ramsey's fiancée in full view of said agent, and succeed in the systematic murder of 27 attendees of YIFCON 20 Redacted. Well, yeah, that right there is just tabletop horror RPG scenario, just ripe for the fodder. Like that description right there is. I can just use that as and I have a scenario for investigators to go looking into at a furry convention.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just like there's nothing else to say, guys. Like I can just use that paragraph. That's my scenario. I can run that off the cuff.
Yeah, just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go to addendum number 1. Prior history SCP-953 has been encountered by the SCP Foundation and its predecessors numerous times, with the first encounter having taken place in Busan, Korea, shortly after the Second World War. Okay, so I'm sure veteran SCP readers may know more about the deep history of the Foundation than I do, but I think this is my first entry that mentions something about the pre-Foundation operations. Like I'm kind of reminded of like how Delta Green got its start in its canon. With Division P, like during the World Wars, and going and kind of got started as a result of the Innsmouth military raid in the Cthulhu mythos. Like they kind of hunker in on like the Foundation got like the Delta Green got started because of the raid on Innsmouth, which was basically a military op that found out that there are deep ones on US soil. This is also just a good setup for a scenario, like a historical scenario, for if you want to do something like in the old days, like before the Foundation, there was this like proto-Foundation that looked up weird shit.
Yeah, is that actually in the canon of SCP?
I'm not sure, but this is the first time that I'm hearing like somebody approach this kind of subject of like a pre-Foundation group. Like basically like the group that became the Foundation essentially. And I'm for it. Like I like that idea. Like it's good for fodder for like basically a monster of the week kind of scenario just set in a historical period. As I go on with my notes, it's like you could also have period pieces with stories of this creature and the authorities, locals who have to deal with the monster's actions and their nature and the collateral. I totally read a World War II era Korean set horror story with this in mind, like with this as the basis. Like basically, like not even like the agents going in and like the trapper, but like I would totes read a story of like a village in Korea who's basically being like used as a buffet for a kumiho for a kumiho. Yeah, I like when things are like set in historical periods because like you get to learn a little bit of history while also having kind of be grounded in a reality that we're semi familiar with, i.e., historical Earth. And then addendum number 2. Special emergency order as misidentification of her species tends to violently agitate SCP-953. All personnel are to be hereby ordered to refer to her as a kumiho and not a kitsune. Personnel asking what the difference is are to be reminded of the differences between the Cherokee Indians and the New Delhi Indians. 05 redacted. I love this kind of supernatural sass from 05.
Yeah, that's
like,
great.
It's like check your privileges. Like, I kind of love that. Like, just like, look, man, like that's supernaturally racist.
Yeah.
Like, I just love
Also,
that.
the
Like,
05 redacted is like, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I assume like, yeah. I assume because we established last week that 05s are like a board of directors. So I assume that each director has a designated number.
So yeah, it'd be like 0542 or whatever.
Exactly.
It's not a name like 05 Ted or something.
Yeah, like it might even be their initials. Like it could even be their initials to a degree. So, no, I love that sass. It's just like, look, man,
Indeed.
like, what's the difference between a kumio and a casino? Look, we're gonna send you to re-education for a second. Like, we're gonna learn you some wokeness. Like, I kind of find that really like funny and like, yeah, like don't be bigoted to supernatural beings just because they're supernatural monsters. Like, they're people too sometimes.
I'm gonna kill everyone and enjoy doing it.
Hey man, that's just part of their nature.
Yeah.
And then this one here, addendum 4, folkloric control procedures. As a reminder, staff assigned to SCP-953 are to follow all instructions for interacting with the subject, no matter how odd or arbitrary they may seem. Keep in mind that the people of Asia interacted with these beings for centuries before we came in onto the scene. What we think of as fairy tales were their versions of special containment procedures. Again, 05 redacted. I just love this statement.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
I love that enough that I wrote down the fact that I love them.
Right? It is exactly what I want in a postmodern supernatural horror lore. Like, and also just it brings to mind the idea, again, like I said earlier, with like historical setting kind of stuff, historical orders of like folklore monster hunters and like monster slaying kind of like groups and stuff like that. Like, what if Delta Green, but in insert historical era? Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, what if the SCP Foundation was set in like rural Korea during the 18th century? Like, what would that look like? It kind of brings to mind. There's a satirical setting within Delta Green's shotgun scenario community. Like, basically, shotgun scenarios it's a competition that happens every year where Delta Green writers and fans come up with scenarios that are basically like under 1,500 words, and basically are just like a quick, like you can just slide it into a campaign or anything like that, like these kind of scenarios. And out of that community, a satirical moss-covered arrowhead caveman Delta Green setting has popped up. And it's just like, again, like I'm bringing this up because it reminds me of like the idea of, I just love the idea of like monster hunting groups from like just a wide range of timelines and time periods. So yeah, no, I love the idea of like historical,
to see how they would do it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% it. Like, yeah, how would, like, in the case of moss covered arrowheads, how would cavemen deal with something supernatural or mythos based? In the event of this SCP entry, like thing, like how would a bunch of 19th century Korean farmers deal with a kumiho? Like they'd follow basically probably their grandmother's like tales or their elders' tales and stuff like that about like what to deal with things like that. There's a horror movie from Japan called I think it's just straight up Occult. And it's basically about a no, it's Noroi, the Curse is what it's called, and it has a guy go. The guy who's investigating this the spirit mystery goes to a person who's like the last remaining survivor or like last remaining person to have seen a village before it was like destroyed by a dam, and he has footage of like the last ritual that was performed by this village back in the 60s or 50s, and it's basically like a priest of the faith there doing like a Japanese cleansing ritual on a demon possessed person, and it's like footage of it, and it's that kind of thing. Like imagine like a group of priests in this like in a time period before the modern era dealing with monsters or demon possession and such. Yeah, no, that statement 100% love it, and just fills my mind with like ideas for like antiquated or historic settings for monster hunting. And then from the interview, I have this quote here. She knew there was no one else, but she knew that we'd never pass up the chance to capture multiple. This designation was replaced with SCP in the restructuring. Again, I love the mention of previous protocols and within the stories of the SCP Foundation, like basically like showing like how they got their start before they became the modern version of the Foundation. Also, I love me my OPARTs. OPARTs are like I came across them from like actually anime and manga when I was a kid, and I love the idea of them. They're basically just SCPs, like, but not in the SCP universe. Like they are just weird artifacts or beings that should not be in a place or time, but are. And I just like that concept of again, it's very much a proto SCP Foundation sort of idea that they definitely were. The SCP Foundation had to have been inspired by the idea of, because out of context weirdness is creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last of my actual thoughts here is from the interview's closing statement. On a side note, I am appalled by the level of superstition expressed by Agent Redacted throughout the course of this interview. I am recommending that his suggestions regarding containment be disregarded for a more scientific approach. We're not old Korean fishwives here. I'm sure we can think of something more effective than dogs and needles. And then my kind of retort to that is sometimes the old ways are the best ways, Assistant Director Redacted. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, again, it just kind of continues on that the earlier statements from the addendums. It's just like, yeah, no, folklore, like, I'd love to see, like, modern, bureaucratic, corporate, like, sort of, like, containment procedures, or, like containment in, like, architecture and bureaucracy. But then they're using, like, old school, like, folkloric methods of, like, and banes to keep things under control.
And they straight up are right now. Like,
oh, yeah.
Assistant Director Redacted was wrong.
Because no, absolutely, yeah.
This was a closing statement done back World War II when this was all jotted down.
Yeah.
In the modern time, the Kumiho is kept in place by a whole bunch of dogs.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, 100%. It's like, yeah, no, that's the old way of thinking by the Foundation's, like, leaders. And then, you know, a couple of times she escapes, they realize, all right, maybe we should stick with the old ways, like, or maybe we should have a more progressive director in control of this. And yeah, like, I like that kind of, like, again, it's a flaws of, like, the time period when this interview was done, like the attitudes towards things, and then, like, we kind of see the progression of, like, of the Foundation where they start relying on these effective old ways because they had a power to them. So
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's my actual thoughts that I jotted down while reading this story. I really liked the addendums. I'll say that I did enjoy the story through the interview, like, from Agent Redacted. There's a little bit of issues because of the grammar, like that one hiccup with the redacted, where we didn't know what the redacted was supposed to be in context of the sentence. So
I mean, that's the whole point of redacted, though, in a way.
I know, but at the same time, though, like, it's also supposed to, like, it's not supposed to ruin like an entire like scene.
You're right.
Yeah. Like it's less. I don't want the redacted is less a problem here because of like, oh, I want to see what the redacted was. It's more like it's breaking the sentence.
Yes.
So, but regardless, I will pass on the torch again to Mikey.
Okay. Just sort of continuing off where you did. So I'm thinking Assistant Director Redacted may have been taken out by SCP-953.
Yeah.
Because of the whole containment situation where they initially tried, was it chains?
Yeah.
Like chained to a wall?
Yep. And apparently it does hold a grudge.
Oh yeah, that's true. He's totally dead.
Oh, he's yeah. He definitely that was not. He wasn't demoted because of his like his opinions. He was demoted because of his opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like especially like I think it specifically says like she goes after like everyone like the people who wronged her, the people who knew the person who wronged her. Like she is a vengeful being.
Like she'd go after the freaking janitor because he was like cleaning up, like because he picked up a coffee mug that the asshole in charge dropped. You know
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
All right, and onward to my notes here. I like the fact that the containment procedure ends up being sort of nice to SCP-953. So, like, the subject is to be provided with the following 1.5 kilograms of fresh liver daily for consumption, clean drinking water in plentiful quantities, clean bedding, futon, and blankets to be exchanged by subject and laundered weekly. Small luxury items, plum wine, reading materials, etc., may be provided as an occasional reward for good behavior as part of psychological conditioning. So basically, being nice to SCP-953 in regards to keeping them in captivity helps keep them in captivity because they don't need to go out and find livers.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's incarcerated, but if it follows good behavior protocols, it'll get its captivity will improve. Like its quality of living while incarcerated will improve. And yeah, I kind of dig that. Like,
yeah, you want to read this Archie comic? Oh, I know you do. You'd be nice.
Well, because and also I think it's also a like things like we don't want to piss this bitch off because she will fucking murder us the next time she escapes.
Yeah.
Like she will murder me, my wife, my children, my cousins, my uncles, everyone. To reference that gif of that Gary Oldman. Just like, who do we send? Everyone.
I don't know it, but it sounds hilarious.
I'll just send you a link to it.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's I think it's as much it's as much a like this is a sentient individual. Like at the end of the day, like she's a supernatural being, but she's also an individual, a person.
Mm-hmm.
So we should maybe treat her with that kind of respect. Also, she can rip our goddamn livers out at the first chance she gets if she thinks that we've done her wrong. So also, like, she's not an animal. I mean, she's an animal, but she's not an animal.
Just because she's a bad guy doesn't mean that she's a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
She's pretty bad.
Okay, I found the GIF.
Okay. Yes.
Everyone.
He enunciates like 100%.
Yeah, no, that because he's that pissed, he's that angry. But yeah, it's the Gary Oldman. Everyone. But yeah. So, anyways, going back to your actual thoughts.
And then going into the interview. I liked the example of her mind-altering ability, where she's basically rips the one agent apart, and then the guy goes back into the cottage, and then the Agent 2 is there, and then suddenly Agent 1 walks through the door like nothing's happened. Yeah. So he shoots Agent 1.
And and then it's again it goes off of the whole like who do you trust conspiratorial paranoia.
Did he actually shoot Agent 1 though? I wonder if when he went out to go take a piss, that whole scene was in his head and she wasn't actually eating Agent 1.
I think it was. I think it all happened because if you recall from her description, her psychic ability does not affect outside observers, and I think at that point he was an outside observer observing what she was doing to him.
I guess
because like she was basically it's basically she can only control what people see if she's aware of what that they're there. So like if somebody's like walking happens to walk by and she doesn't notice that they're there, they're not going to see the phantasmal imagery of her psychic projection.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, again, like outside, like it'd be like if we were like, she's like making this like paradise for this person in her cell while she's getting ready to eat him. Meanwhile, we cut to like the guy watching through like a camera feed, and she's just like basically like he's in a daze as she's like getting ready to pounce on him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the whole sort of mind messing with it and all that was nice, and it adds to fodder for game scenarios because you could mess with the players in so many ways.
Yeah, just for our D20 stuff, it's like just like all right, so roll will save. Everybody roll will save. All right, so this thing happened, and then you just keep going like horrible things, and then like and then whoever like got the highest, like all right, and then after that scene's over, and so all right, so there's this like horrible beast creature that's about to eat your friend's head. It's like, oh, what? and you also like because the scene doesn't stop there when he like sees the horrible death and then gets back to the cottage. Oh, his friend comes in the door. He's fine. The shooting, the shooting and the standoff happens, and then he runs into the dining room where they had been eating. And he sees for the first time what they were actually eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, that just amplifies the horror of that, where you find out that you were eating maggots. How do they taste? Delicious. You're eating maggots, Michael. How do they taste? To reference Lost Boys. Yeah.
Well, they mentioned earlier that it tasted delicious. So.
Well, yeah. Did anybody else like? Was anybody else just like at that point? It was like, ooh, they're eating people.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it was just like it's like as soon as like meat was mentioned, I was like, oh fuck, they're eating people.
Yeah, because she only eats livers, so I mean, what do you got to do with the rest of the body?
Give it to your cattle. Give it to your livestock.
Pretty much.
Sorry, that fucking Gary Oldman thing's still in our feed. I just keep seeing.
Yeah, it's really distracting. Honestly.
Yeah, I didn't remove it, but I just I moved up on the feed.
Yeah, that's what I should do too.
It's just so fucking hypnotizing. Just everyone. But yes, no. Going back to what you're saying, Mikey. Yeah, I agree. And actually, like thinking on it now, like Gamer, like you might also be right. Like he might have like the whole thing that happened outside might have also been an illusion to just completely fuckle with them when he got back to the cabin, because she does like to torture people, and so what would be more torturous than to have you think that your friend was dead and been turned into a monster, so then you shoot him and kill him yourself, and then come to the realization that you did that. It's like how sadistic does she want to be?
Yeah, and that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right, so Gamer, you're up.
All right. So my first one is about the containment procedure. Psychological containment is also necessary for this reason. The approach to 953's containment chamber is to be lined with open cage dog kennels, preferably of that and that. So how long of a hallway do we have here, and how many dogs are imprisoned here to keep this entity at bay?
Okay, so I've been trying to figure it out too, because like is the kennel like is it like a hallway that goes down to a room where the chamber, like her chamber, is actually like the center of this room, and like the outside of the room is actually a second level or like a second layer with all the dog kennels and stuff.
I think you're overthinking it.
I think I have been. I think
it's literally just like, think of a dog pound, where like you walk in and there's dogs to the left of you, cats to the right. Here you are, stuck in the middle with them, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of that hallway is where the door to her actual cell is. But that's the only way out. So if she wanted to leave, she would have to run past all these dogs that are open.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's actually happening. That was my first idea, but then I had this idea of like, you know, like from the X-Men movies, Magneto's like room in like
yes,
and then like I just imagine that like the bottom, like that the area underneath that area, that whole that room, like that elevated room, is just like a giant open dog kennel, like a dog park basically. An enclosed dog park around the and like the hallway is just that like that pathway that goes over, like that you have to like go over to it. But I think you're probably more accurate.
Because it does say hallway. What you're describing is not a hallway.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think the hallway is probably where the kennels are, and yeah, the door is there's only one door that goes to that chamber. So
yeah,
it sounds like a long hallway because it says like SCP is to be kept a Type 4 containment cell at the end of hallway 99. Just the fact that it says like at the end of the hallway, it sounds like it's got to be like at least.
Now, what's the site called? Site 17. I wonder if Site 17 is like a it's kind of like a prison style layout or a hospital style layout in America. Where there's a hub. There's like a hub station where like all security and details and stuff all like operate, and where like all the administrative stuff kind of goes on, and then it basically just flowers out to 99 different hallways, to different rooms, to different where different entities are. So like, or maybe like not even like flowers out like to 99 hallways. Maybe there's like it's multiple layers, and hallway 99 is just on one of the floors. Of one of these like flowering. Basically, it's a like almost like a pedal facility where. There's different floors with different branching off hallways that go to a room where a monster or creature or thing is kept in containment. And the hallway itself is safeguarded with like various banes of folkloric power and magic.
I can envision that exact thing, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
I'm kind of getting
drawing it on my table with my finger, be like, oh yeah, it's like that, and then there's another layer up here, another one, and then elevator goes between it all.
Yeah. I would guess that the hallway is about 100 meters. Because of the whole safe zone and the
true
hermetically sealed door.
But does that mean they have 100 meters of dogs on both sides of the room?
Yeah, I think that's
a lot of dogs put into servitude.
Hey man, like they're well fed, they're kept up probably.
Yeah,
it doesn't say that they're like left ravenous, like so that like I think they're just like, God, can you imagine though that's got to be like a lot of work to maintain those dogs.
Yeah, really.
But again, like for the Foundation, it's not too unheard of. I mean, they put more money into staffing 50 people at an Arctic station with a nuclear device.
This is true.
It's like I think the dog hull. Oh God, it's Dogscape. Oh God. Well, you see, we use SCP SCP Fido, otherwise known as the Dogscape, to contain SCP-953, the Kumio. We occasionally just have to barbecue a little bit of the of Dogscape to make sure it doesn't make sure it doesn't expand beyond its allotted corridor.
Of course. Anyways,
yes.
So this creature's hostile and takes pleasure in killing sentient life. So why hasn't it been terminated? Like, what good is it doing keeping this thing alive?
That is the question of the day, I think, honestly.
They're not even doing experiments on it. They're not trying to learn anything from it. They're just keeping it there.
My best explanation for it is maybe because of its like shred of humanity in that it can turn into people. They're treating it like an incarcerated person to a degree. Like because why don't like the same thing? Like why don't we just give everybody who's in prison the death penalty? Like
because normal people can't shapeshift and magic to control people and rip livers it with bare hands.
Like
they're normal level people. She's super powerful.
I understand. I think maybe like the Foundation, like again, like this could be brought into the story to kind of further elaborate it. That either that she might be like they're hoping that she might be rehabilitated to not be such, or like they see her. There's enough. We need more. I think, and actually, kind of bring up a thought here. We need a little bit more to give us a reason why they haven't just killed her.
Yeah.
Like I know why Agent Redacted doesn't want to kill her is because he's infatuated with her because of the glamour hasn't completely worn off on it. Is my guess. But
the basic explanation is that they're saving her for the Suicide Squad.
Damn it, you beat me to this does feel like an SNTF the SCP Suicide Squad. I would fucking love that if they did an SCP Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Somebody out there write that story, and if it exists already, send us that email. I want to read that story because she is straight up the Harley Quinn of the SCP Suicide Squad.
100%.
Also, I mentioned it earlier in a quote, but I wish I'd put down more notes for it. The folkloric control procedure, the FCP. I want to know more about the FCP. Like, I kind of
all the stuff that they're doing that's potentially quote unquote weird because it's fairy tale-ish, but it actually contains her.
Yeah, the R&D department that researches like folkloric solutions for various folklorically entrenched entities. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, 100% there. You hit it on the you hit the nail on the head there, Mikey. SCP Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's a very good reason.
Yeah.
Monetization, that's why. Anyways, moving on. So I read all that stuff about how this creature is being given liver to eat and drinking water and bedding that gets changed every week and all that. And its favorite method of killing is torturing the victim and ripping their liver out with its bare hands. And then it gets to the description that says SCP-953 is a female red fox. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was told it gets its sheets changed, it gets reading material.
Well, then you keep reading.
Yeah, I know. But for that moment, I'm like, what the hell? But it had me imagining a fox's hand reaching into a guy's stomach to reach out the pull out its liver, and also a fox sitting on its futon reading the paper while drinking wine.
So it's just a Zootopia fox.
Yeah, exactly. Just very murderous.
Yeah, exactly. It's a psychotic criminal from the Zootopia universe.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, reading on, I'm like, okay, it's a kitsune. All right, fine.
It's not a kitsune. It is not a kitsune.
However, me making that assumption at that time, I didn't know. But me doing that, if she heard me, I'm dead. So if I'm not here next week, we'll know why. Anyways, moving on.
Yes. Also, check your supernatural privileges.
Yeah, I should probably do that. So, 953 has escaped and has been recovered 6 times, resulting in the deaths of redacted SCP agents during various incidences. At least that redacted section is only 1 digit long, so at least they're doing something right here. Unlike they've lost like hundreds of people in the 6 times.
Yeah.
They've lost a max.
Wait, hang on.
Between 2 and 9 people in the 6 attempts.
Yeah, but then they lost 22 people at a single convention.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They're just furries. Oh,
I know.
You're a rock star. Get your game on. Go play.
I mean, SCP isn't based in dirt. I'm trying to say.
That's true. Yeah.
They're not losing red shirts by the dozen.
Also, that was a joke. Please don't crucify us, furry communities.
Of course.
We don't kink shame on this podcast. So.
Indeed. However, my next Addendum 3, Agent Gallagher, him essentially being a furry and him being killed.
Yeah,
and that's why from now on they need to look into everyone's backstory to see basically what they're into, and if you're a furry, you can't be assigned to her because it just makes it way worse.
Yeah, because that makes 100% sure. It's because it's like even from like a regular like incarceration standpoint, you don't want a guard who is sympathetic to the prisoner.
Oh, for sure.
Like 100%. Like that's we don't want like it's like hang on. It's like it says here that you attended Anime North 2011 and 2012 when you were a teenager. Yeah, no, you we're gonna assign you to a different site. Wait, but what? Why? It's like for that reason alone. Nerd. But yeah, it's 100% like that. Like those are the people that are the easiest prey for the Kumiho.
For sure. But the whole point,
especially if you Google, especially if you Google SCP-953 and look at the images, there is so much goddamn fan art of anime fox lady with green.
Oh, I'm sure.
With green fox tails. It's ridiculous.
Green?
Yeah, apparently the image for this Kumiho is a redheaded anime girl in a red outfit, and her foxtails are all green, like lime green.
That's news to me.
Yeah.
I was told that she was a red fox, so I assumed the tails would be red as well.
Yeah,
but she's a shapeshifter. She can look at her if she wants. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole reason I put that note down is I like that the SCP is acknowledging their fuck up. And noting that, okay, we can't do this anymore. Although you'd think that they would have gotten on that really quick when she killed those 24 people at a furry convention. Like,
well, that one fairly recent. So like I think that one was just when she, like, her last escape. She went to this furry convention and just went on a spree, like systematically, like basically like meticulously, like making sure like she killed and then kept going basically. So like I think that was a more recent event that happened in her like.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the timeline of when Gallagher was killed. There's no timeline for this stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
it just says addendum 2, 3, and 4. Like, there's no time, so who knows what happened?
Oh my god, guys!
What?
Somebody made a text-based adventure game called SCP-953 YIFCON Bloodbath.
That's a great name.
A text-based adventure game about that time you went to YIFCON 2015 and everyone was murdered by a hateful psychic fox demon.
Wow.
Oh my god.
I know what I'm
doing. Yeah, so I'm just Googling like YIFCON just to see when it was founded and if it was, or like just to see like how long it's been around.
Is it actually a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think. Oh, it might not be. Hang on. It might have been like just something. It's just because like I could see it existing because yiffing is definitely a furry thing, and furry conventions are a thing that happen. Wow, there is a lot of information. Apparently, there might actually be some stories about the YIFCON massacre.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not okay. So I'm not actually seeing a YIFCON convention, like an official thing. It seems to actually, it does seem to be a fictional convention.
Okay.
However, I do know that I'm pretty sure there is a furry convention out in Pittsburgh, so that's what was confusing me. So, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue. Yeah. So 2015. Some people have it set to like 2015 is when that happened. So that's still fairly recent. And like anime fans and like that and that kind of stuff has been going on since like the mid 80s to like the late to the early 2000s, or basically from the mid 80s on. So Gallagher could have been like an otaku from like the late 80s, early 90s as early as that. So, but sorry, continuing.
It could be that. He could also be the same Gallagher that hits watermelons with hammers for the lulz.
I hate you.
I mean, yeah. I'm not surprised by this.
I will break into 953's containment facility and unleash her on you.
Well, that's fine.
No. The thing is that that Gallagher is still alive. So in order for that to be true, this SCP has to be from the future.
Well,
so maybe it's from the 2080s.
Yeah, exactly. YIFCON 2080. That's why you can't look it up now, because it doesn't exist now.
Oh, okay, that explains it. Yeah.
Duh.
It's just like Rainforest 2085. Why I kind of like surprised how much knowledge I have of furry culture, subculture.
Should you be surprised?
Kind of.
I've seen your art.
Hey now.
It's fine.
You're a rock star.
Thank you.
You did it.
I was waiting.
He's never done it.
Anyways, we digress. Continue on.
We do. So, on to the interview. As soon as I started reading it, I didn't really like the format of it because it's using different fonts to differentiate between the interviewer, the agent, and the extra notes being added in post.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Especially since it says at the start that like this person's going to be referred to as this and this person's going to be referred to as that, and then they never do that.
And then it goes to a completely different format.
Yeah.
That,
Thankfully, it is pretty clear the difference between the interviewer and the agent, since the interviewer asks a simple question and the agent vomits out a paragraph. But the extra notes that are added in post, that they're like mixed in with the normal paragraph and everything, so it gets kind of muddied.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not really a fan of the especially since we've seen SCP interviews before that have done it by a set almost standard where like interviewee, interviewer, interviewee, interviewer, like kind of thing like that, or like Agent Redacted or Agent Carlson and victim number 5. Like, just give us the designation before you go into the dialogue.
Especially since you went through the hassle of giving people designations early on.
Yeah.
I believe it's used in there. It's just not used as the titles. Either way, this is the first. Like, I started reading it and I was like, okay, that's weird. But this is the first one where it really got annoying. Agent Redacted, 5th Squad, Eastern Division. Note: following the restructuring of Redacted, this unit was redesigned Mobile Containment Task Force Theta 3 Celia Daggers. So that whole thing. Hang on, I need to find it in here because my notes don't copy and paste different fonts. Okay, it's at the beginning of it. So right before that, the interviewer goes, "Okay, let's begin." Blah 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 blah. He says, "Please state your name, rank, registry number." So then, me saying Agent Redacted, this is the agent talking, saying, "My name is Agent Redacted, 5th Squad, Eastern Division," and then immediately goes on to note. So it almost sounded like he said, "My name is Agent Gamer in Yellow, 5th Squad, Agent Eastern Division." Note following, and like the note is actually audibly said by him.
Yeah, it definitely
it's not bracketed out or anything. It's just there.
Yeah, it really should have been a bracketed thing as well.
Yeah, that's the simple way to do the notes after the fact, is just bracket them out.
Yep.
Because otherwise, it sounded like he was saying it, and I was very confused.
Uh-huh.
And to simplify, keeping all, even if you don't bracket it out, if you keep all the different speakers on different lines, like tab it down or something, just something has to be done.
Yeah.
And then my last note, I had a little bit of a flashback when I read this. And this is the quote. "Remember how Agent 1 and Agent 2 were both redacted, but I was redacted? Well, now I will anxiously wait for you two, Cultist and Mikey, to choose what white cards you'll use to win the point. Go."
Remember when Agent Redacted and Agent Redacted got redacted?
"Remember how Agent 1 and Agent 2 were both blank, but I was blank? Cards Against Humanity, go."
Oh God, you're right. Remember when Agent 1 and Agent 2 were I'm gonna go with
blank, but I was blank.
I'm gonna go with Bigger Blacker Dick. And Biggest Blackest Dick.
Ah, I see. Mikey, your rebuttal. I'll repeat. "Remember how Agent 1 and Agent 2 were both blank, but I was blank."
Shit, I should use the must construct additional pylons.
That would have been a good one.
Terminators and Sarah Connor.
Ah, nice. Thematic. I like it. You win.
Damn it.
But yeah, that's immediately what I saw when I saw that sentence. It's just perfect for that.
Yeah, no, God, I kind of want to see an SCP Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah, they can totally do that.
Code, like, just make like a whole like deck of black cards that are just SCP like quotes with the redacted. Oh my God. I think we just came up with a new card game, guys.
We got a new expansion for Cards Against Humanity here.
Yeah, the redacted files of the SCP, just like whole bunch of white cards for answers, and then also like fill in the redacted parts. Like you're a bunch of administrative peons who have to try and figure out what these old redacted files were all about.
Yeah, you have lore for the card game as well.
Oh my God, yeah, I kind of want guys. TM. We got next like coming to you live from a drive-through cards. look for that in the future, maybe.
Probably not, but it's cool.
Yeah.
The way I filled it in to make it actually make sense is, remember how Agent 1 and Agent 2 were both furries, but I was undecided? That's why he lived.
Yeah.
And that's the end of my notes.
Okay. Well, that's a good point to end off, I guess, on.
Yeah.
So on to final thoughts. There's definitely some room for improvement here. But overall, I really love the information we get out of this entry and the narrative in the interview and the historical intel on the pre-Foundation scenarios. It says a lot about the Foundation's past as much as it tells about the entity they captured during that time. And again, it's really good. There are issues obviously that we brought up, but it's not as tight and concise as as last week's entry, but it is close, and it gives us a lot. Again, I just love that sassy folkloric check your privileges sort of thing. It's or that basically anti supernatural bigotry angle they gave us at the end is that's so awesome.
But was he saying that because he's infatuated with her?
Oh, that's true. That's the other thing. That might even be a reason why she's still alive. Is basically she's kind of, again, to play on the idea of the mimetic virus from last week. We see here this could also be, again, an infection that she's implanted in some of the higher ups. It could be part of her glamour, because you notice how quick they were, the original capture team was to just follow her to her cabin and have food with her, even though it kind of seemed like they knew she was the monster, but they were playing along while also really just falling into her trap.
Yeah, they were just immediately enthralled.
So I think that's a similar thing that's happening here, is that she's incarcerated, but we're also going to give her all these cool things that she can to help her quality of life while she's incarcerated, and maybe one of us will even maybe let her escape sometime, but we don't need to worry about that.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. Whenever YIFCon whenever the next YIFCon happens, we'll every other YIFCon maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, again, just to play on that idea for a scenario, again, I mentioned earlier, oh no, I'm done. But to clarify, again, a horror scenario where you are investigators having to go to an anime convention or a furry convention and infiltrate the site because people are ending up dead. You have somebody already on the inside who just attends the conventions on the regular, and they've found a body, and that's how you get sent in. Boom, there's your game scenario. Just infiltrate, and it doesn't have to be a furry convention. Anime conventions, it seems, are also with otaku. And again, there's so many creepy supernatural monsters from those different folklores of Asia that you could just play with this. You have multiple different types of yokai, or Korean monsters, or Vietnamese monsters, the whole span there. So because again, anime likes to do that, pull those monsters into their stuff, so you can just kind of pull in for that. It's oh no, they're just cosplaying. It's they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. They are literally a fox in sheep's clothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so yeah, 100% game fodder ability here. You could have historical scenarios with different monster hunting orders that came before the Foundation was set up, or the pre-Foundation setup of in World War I and II, the people who started, basically the people who became the founders of the SCP Foundation. You could run some scenarios in that, with them dealing with weird ass shit in the pre-Foundation period. Yeah, I recommend. It's got flaws obviously, but those can be easily fixed, and it may not be as tight a product as the previous SCP we recently covered, but it is definitely up there. So yeah, I recommend. Mikey, these tens real.
Everything is fine.
I, for one, welcome our Kumiho overlord.
Yeah. Overall, if you get rid of the sort of grammar issues that Gamela brought up at the end with the font issues and stuff, and the interviews, and sort of cleaned it up a little bit, this is a good sort of story. It tells you about the monster, which is the fox, and how you really don't want to go near her.
You do not want to fuck with her at all. It's sometimes the best option is just to leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as I said earlier, I enjoyed the mind-altering ability of the fox based on the interview. So I'm going to give this a recommendation.
Dang. All right. Gamer in Yellow.
I enjoyed the read. It was fun. like you said a couple of times, Cultist, I like the sass of the 05 and all that. Although I do wish it was listed what the folklorish containment procedures that they're doing are, because I'm really curious what the hell they're doing that it's weird enough that it has to be mentioned to just do it.
I think it's the dog kennels in the hallway.
No, because it says like people like I'll just again. Where is no matter how odd or arbitrary they may seem, keep in mind that people of Asia interact with these beings for centuries. So I don't think it's just having dogs there.
Oh no, yeah. I think what you're tackling though is like he's broad stroking basically their R&D department from their folkloric containment procedures department. So like I think like he's referencing other like fairy tale folklore banes that they're researching for other entities, not just this one.
No,
you don't think so?
No, this addendum is about the current folklore containment procedures that are already in effect. Because it says, as a reminder, staff assigned to 953 are to follow all instructions for interacting with this subject, no matter how odd or arbitrary they may be.
Yeah, with the subject, yeah, no matter how arbitrary they may be.
So
keep in mind that the people of Asia interacted with these beings for centuries before we came in on the scene. What we think of as fairy tales were their versions of SCP of special containment protocols. I honestly think that's like he's mentioning like reminding staff about the procedures for the for this entity, and we do get most of them in this entry. But I think he's also broad stroking of other entities that they've come across in that region, not just the Kumiho.
I strongly disagree.
Okay,
but that's the way I'm reading it, because it's straight up saying that to anyone assigned to her, do all instructions for interacting with her, no matter how weird it is. And that's not just there's dogs there, feed the dogs. That's not weird. I'm saying there's got to be some other ancient folkloric stuff that they have to do. Like I don't freaking know folklore good enough to know, but like.
Well, I mean, it would depend on like again, like I think I looked. I'm pretty sure I like last time after I checked this out, I did look up Kumiho to see what it was, and like it's really just it's a fox demon that eats livers.
I know that.
And then the dog thing. So like maybe like again, I'm thinking of like when I'm coming from another angle of like, well, maybe one of the other hallways has like a hopping vampire, a Jingzhu, and like basically they have like rice just like thrown down along the hallway because those vampires, they have to like meticulously pick up each individual grain of rice before they can proceed. So like those like that's kind of like that's the folkloric control procedure for that entity kind of thing.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that one. We're talking about this one. And this is a reminder for this one to do all that are associated with it, which has to be more than the dogs. Otherwise, it would just say, like, it wouldn't bother mentioning it if it's just feed the dogs, because you'd be doing that anyways. So there has to be some weird procedures that aren't being mentioned, even though they should be mentioned, because the whole point of this article is to educate someone in the SCP world about this creature so they can contain it. But those aren't listed. Like if there's like some scented candles they have to keep going, or like layout, like freaking what are they called? I can't think of it, but other weird stuff like that, quote unquote weird.
Yeah,
like fantasy-ish sort
folkloric
of things.
Like,
yeah,
folkloric ritual. Like maybe there's some kind of a folkloric, like a mandala or something like that like encircles the chamber, like before you even enter the room, or before you can even like go into the room, or like again,
or like you have to like sit down and drink some tea and like sing a song or something before you go in, like anything weird like that.
Yeah, or like get a blessing from a priest of one of the faiths from that region before even going in, or like getting you have to like put on a special kind of like a special kind of talisman before even like, because I mean like how, like I'm trying to think of also like how are they getting like the bedding and stuff like that? Like do they have a robot like drive over and like pick up the bedding that she like props onto it and then like it goes away down the hallway, or like does somebody have to go over there and grab the stuff, because it specifically says no human contact?
Delivery of food and other items are to be carried out by an automated robotic assistant.
Oh, okay, so it does mention that. Sorry.
So they don't straight up go in.
Yeah, so God, I'm just imagining that robot from the Godzilla TV series. Mikey knows what I'm talking about. Oh! Yeah, no, I'm just imagining a drone of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Long story short on that recommendation is I wish if there were more weird containment procedures that they were mentioned, and then of course all the restructuring of the interview would be nice, would be cleaner. Yeah. Remove the unnecessary redacteds and stuff. But aside from that, it's really solid. It explains everything. I don't know where the fan art got the green tails from, unless I've read something. I've misread.
My guess is that they are pulling that from League of Legends and the kitsune that's in that, even though I know that's a kumiho, or I know it's a kumiho in this entry, but because I know more recent depiction. What? Well, I know, but in more recent depictions of her, they have crystal kind of things. So I don't know. Maybe, dude, I don't know.
It's just a different skin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, I liked it.
Yeah. That's yeah.
I can change to make it better.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not trying to fight you on this. I do agree with you on the revisions and if there is some more folkloric banes that they are not including, they should include them. Because you said, this is straight up. This is actually an entry that is an educational entry for anybody who's going into the who's being charged with dealing with this entity.
Yeah, because the way it seems right now, she's set up at the end of the hallway. There's a bunch of open dog cages. They use a robot to deliver her food and take her laundry, and then that's it. That's all they do. If that's the case, fine. But where the hell is this folkloric reminder to do all weird things? There's no weird things mentioned.
I think it's. I know we're probably just arguing over something very superfluous, but it's I really feel like it's just him. It's basically reminding people look what happened to the assistant director from from early who scoffed at using fairy and folklore, fairy tale and folklore procedures, and look what happened to him, guys. He wanted to go more scientific route. Maybe we should just stick with the old ways. Maybe that's what he's trying to get at. If there isn't any other folklore banes and stuff that they are bringing up, he's just kind of again broad stroking the matter to look, I know we live in a modern period, but there's a reason those folkloric shit worked, so that's why we have the dog kennels and this and that, so. But again, we could keep arguing, I guess, for infinitum.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying words anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
All right. So I guess we'll bring it to a close with basically a roundhouse recommendation. Face.
Yeah.
A coordinated triple recommendation to the liver.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're all on Twitter. You can contact us there if you'd like to talk to us. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow without the W because his name's very long.
It is.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCP entries, folkloric horror monsters, and other spooky things like sightings and cryptids. We'll talk about them and come up with ideas on how to make them into game fodder or creepypastas. And we'll just, discuss and read the creepypasta ones and the SCPs. If you'd like to help support our show, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate it. And to our listeners and the creators of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like speaking into the void. And without your authormanship, without your stories that you share out online on various communities, we wouldn't have anything to talk about and postulate on and ramble on about for an hour and a half. Argue about incessantly about the minutia.
Yeah.
And personally, thank you for that, because you know what? Sometimes a little bit of venting on and arguing and chest pounding is good for the soul, right?
Sure, why not?
Anyway, thank you immensely. So until next time, I have been Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.